Imagine going on a dream vacation with your family, only for it to turn into a nightmare. How does something like this even happen? Brett Gardner, a former New York Yankees star, is living every parent's worst fear. His 14-year-old son, Miller, got sick during a family trip, and heartbreakingly never woke up. The news has hit the baseball world hard. Fans, teammates, and even rival players are coming together to support the Gardner family. But beyond the headlines, this is about a young boy, full of life, passion, and big dreams, gone way too soon. So, who was Miller Gardner? What happened on that trip? And how is Brett Gardner, a man known for his strength on the field, coping with this unimaginable loss? Let's take a closer look at this tragic story that's left so many people heartbroken.
Son of a former New York Yankees outfielder, Brett Gardner, has died. Gardner and his wife Jessica shared the heartbreaking news about their son Miller on the Yankees' X account. The couple says Miller died peacefully in his sleep on Friday while on vacation.
For Brett Gardner, life after baseball has been all about family. After spending 14 seasons with the New York Yankees, winning a World Series and becoming a fan favorite, he stepped away from the game to focus on what really mattered: his wife, Jessica, and their two sons, Hunter and Miller. The Gardners were known as a tight-knit family. They did everything together. Whether it was baseball, fishing trips, or just hanging out, they were inseparable. And Miller? He was the kind of kid everyone loved. Funny, full of energy, and crazy about sports, just like his dad. So when the family planned a trip together, it was meant to be one of those unforgettable vacations, a chance to relax, laugh, and create new memories. But nobody could have predicted what was coming. At first, everything seemed normal. They were enjoying their time away, soaking up the experience. But then Miller started feeling sick. It wasn't anything dramatic at first, maybe just a little under the weather, nothing to really worry about. After all, kids get sick all the time, right? A little rest, some medicine, and he'd be back to running around in no time. At least that's what everyone thought. But as the hours passed, something felt off. Miller wasn't bouncing back the way he usually did. His energy was low and he just didn't seem like himself. His parents kept a close eye on him, making sure he was comfortable, assuming he just needed time to recover. Then came the night that changed everything. The family went to bed as usual, expecting to wake up to a brand new day. But when morning came, Miller was still asleep, and he wasn't waking up. Panic set in. They tried to wake him, but he wouldn't respond. The kind of moment no parent ever wants to face. And just like that, their world shattered. Miller Gardner, 14 years old, full of life and promise, was gone. How does something like this even happen? How does a seemingly normal illness take such a tragic turn? Those are the same questions Brett and Jessica have been asking themselves every second since that morning. And the worst part, there are no clear answers. Before this heartbreaking tragedy, Miller Gardner was just like any other 14-year-old kid, except maybe a little more competitive, a little more adventurous, and a lot more full of life. He wasn't just Brett Gardner's son. He was his own person, his own name, his own dreams. And if you asked anyone who knew him, they'd tell you the same thing. Miller was special. From the moment he could walk, he was on the move. Sports weren't just something he did, they were a part of who he was. Football, baseball, golf, you name it, he wanted to play it. And just like his dad, he had that never-give-up attitude. He wasn't the biggest kid on the field, but he made up for it with heart. But Miller wasn't just about sports. He had a personality that made people gravitate toward him. He was the kind of kid who could make you laugh even when you didn't want to. He had a sharp sense of humor, a little bit of mischief in his smile, and a way of making everyone around him feel included. His older brother Hunter was not just his sibling, but his best friend. The two of them were inseparable. Whether they were competing against each other or teaming up, they were always side by side. And then there was his relationship with Brett. It's no secret that Brett Gardner was one of the toughest, most hard-working players in baseball. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't the most talented guy on the field, but he outworked everyone. He hustled. He fought for every play. And Miller? He was exactly the same. He looked up to his dad in a way that only a son can. But at the same time, he wasn't just trying to be Brett Gardner's kid. He wanted to make his own name, carve out his own path, and he was well on his way. Miller had big plans for his future. Maybe baseball, maybe football, maybe something completely different. The truth is, he had time to figure it out. At just 14, the world was wide open for him. That's what makes this loss so painful, so unfair, because Miller wasn't just someone's son. He was a kid with dreams. A kid who had a whole life ahead of him. A kid who should have had so much more time. But in an instant, all of that was taken away. And now, his family is left trying to piece together a life without him. But how do you even begin to do that? Nothing can prepare you for losing a child. One day, Miller was laughing, playing, and making plans for the future. The next, he was gone. Just like that. No warning. No time to say goodbye. For Brett and Jessica, it still doesn't feel real. How do you wake up every morning knowing your son isn't there? How do you move forward when every little thing reminds you of him? The empty seat at the dinner table? The sound of a baseball game on TV? The quietness of a house that used to be filled with his energy? Their grief is impossible to put into words. There's no playbook for this. No way to fix the pain. Just an endless loop of questions with no answers. Miller didn't have a long life, but he had a full one, and that's something his parents are holding on to. Every fishing trip, every football game, every joke he cracked at just the right moment. Those memories are now all they have left. Hunter, his big brother, is hurting in a way only a sibling can. They were supposed to grow up together, push each other, make fun of each other, and be there for each other. Now there's just this empty space where Miller should be. The Yankees community has been quick to rally around the Gardner family. Brett spent his entire career with the team, and they've never forgotten what he gave to the organization. Players, coaches, and fans have all reached out, sending love, prayers, and support. But as comforting as those messages are, they don't change the reality. The Gardner family has to face life without Miller, and right now, they're just trying to get through each day. The world keeps moving, but for them, time feels frozen. They're stuck in the moment. Everything changed. The moment their son, their brother, their Miller, was taken away. But even in their pain, one thing is clear. Miller's story isn't over, because his impact, the way he lived, the way he loved, will never be forgotten. But how do you honor someone gone too soon? How do you make sure their memory lives on? That's what the Gardners are figuring out now. It's a strange feeling, this time between grief and healing. On one hand, everything feels raw and fresh. The hurt is unbearable, and the absence of Miller feels like a void that no amount of love or support can ever fill. But on the other hand, the love that's poured in from friends, family, and the whole baseball community is starting to provide some comfort. Brett and Jessica's lives have been turned upside down, and the reality of losing a child is something that no amount of fame, success, or wealth can shield you from. Their world, once filled with excitement about Miller's future, is now overshadowed by their profound loss. But even in their pain, they're trying to find ways to keep Miller's spirit alive. The most heartbreaking part is the thought of what could have been. The graduations, the weddings, the milestones. The things Brett and Jessica had always imagined their son experiencing, that they had no chance to see. And yet, amid the heartache, they know one thing. Miller's life, though short, was meaningful. His impact on everyone who knew him was profound. So how do you keep someone's legacy alive? How do you honor a young boy who had a heart as big as his dreams? For the Gardners, it's about cherishing those memories, the quiet moments, the big moments, and everything in between. Miller was more than just a talented athlete. He wasn't defined by his sporting skills alone. He was the kid who could make everyone around him smile, who could lift your spirits even when you were feeling down. And those qualities are what Brett and Jessica want to remember. The love and support from the Yankees community have been a constant source of strength for them. The messages of sympathy, the flowers, the kind words, each one feels like a hug, a reminder that they aren't alone in this. But despite the outpouring of kindness, it's clear that no one can take away the pain they feel. And yet, even through the sadness, there's hope. Because while Miller may no longer be physically present, his legacy is very much alive. His love for sports, his sense of humor, and the way he lived life to the fullest will continue to shape the lives of those who knew him. His family, his friends, and even the fans who never met him, they all carry pieces of Miller's spirit with them. As the Gardner family moves forward, they're learning how to navigate a world without Miller in it. It's not easy, and there are days when the weight of grief feels too much to bear. But they're finding ways to honor his memory. They're creating foundations, telling stories, and spreading his passion for life to everyone they meet. One of the things Brett has said about Miller is how much pride he felt watching his son grow into such a remarkable person. That's something that will never fade, no matter how much time passes. Because what they had with Miller was something incredibly special. And even though their hearts are broken, that love remains. They may never understand why this happened, but what they do understand is that Miller was loved deeply, and that love will continue to grow, even in his absence. At the end of the day, it's not the number of years we have on this earth that matters. It's what we do with the time we're given. And Miller, in his short 14 years, taught everyone around him the importance of living fully. His infectious energy, his courage, and his heart will continue to inspire all who knew him. In the end, Miller's story isn't about how he died, but about how he lived. It's about the way he made others feel, the joy he brought to the world, and the love he shared with his family and friends. As the Gardners continue to grieve, they're holding on to that. The love, the laughter, the memories, all of it will live on. And that's the beautiful thing about life. Even when someone is taken from us too soon, their legacy remains. So to Brett, Jessica, and the whole Gardner family, while no words can truly heal the pain, know that Miller's light continues to shine brightly. And as difficult as this journey will be, his memory will always be a part of you, guiding you through the darkest days. Because love doesn't die, it endures. And that's the greatest tribute to Miller Gardner, one that will never fade.